because it represents the amount of commitment actually being made through our clerical resources to the Conservation Commission.
Line item 51, Mr. Daly.
Mr. Moderator, I move to appropriate the sum of $6,800 for line number 51 as printed in the Sponsor Recommends column with any noted transfers as printed in the warrant.
You've heard the motion for $6,800 for line item 51. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Mrs. Belmonte?
Finance Committee recommends.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Daly for line item 52. Sorry. Mr. Carucci. Oh, he makes a Mr. Daly will make the motion? Okay.
Yes.
As long as you're in agreement.
Mr. Moderator, I move to appropriate the sum of $60,000 for line number 52 as printed in the Sponsor Recommends column with any noted transfers as printed in the warrant.
Mr. Moderator, I move to amend line item 52 of the town warrant as to be $61,000.
Just a moment, Mr. Carucci. Let's proceed in proper order. First of all, the chair is in possession of a motion for $60,000 for line item number 52. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Does the Finance Committee? Mrs. Belmonte.
We're under the impression that Mr. Carucci wants to make an amendment. We would like to wait and hear that amendment.
All right. Mr. Carucci.
You want me to say it again?
Yes, I want you to say it again.
All right. I move to amend line item 52 of the town warrant so as to be $61,000.
The motion is to amend the main motion under line item number 52 to $61,000. Now is the Finance Committee ready to make a recommendation? I'm going to borrow that for a minute. Mrs. Belmonte.
Finance Committee recommends.
What does the Finance Committee recommend?
The amendment.
Oh. All right. For clarification, the chair has been notified that the Finance Committee recommends favorably on the motion to amend. Okay. We will discuss the motion to amend and the main motion together. Mr. Carucci.
Okay. The reason for the amendment is it covers the two non-union employees that we have, which is the administrator and the secretary. And where the town had voted the $68,000 to take care of the non-union members of the town hall, we felt it was necessary also to take care of our help, which we're independent of the rest of the town hall. So that's the reason why we amended it to the $61,000. Now, just to show you what's happening and how this board operates, I'm going to take a few minutes. I just want to show you what's happening in town. And if there's any questions in the town as far as land use, this is the board that answers all the questions for it. And this is to show you what kind of work we're into. And the reason I want to bring this up, there was a little argument about, I guess, the Space Study Committee and how they were going to use the bachelor school. And I want you to look here at these are subdivisions that are happening in this town. And this is where the population growth is going to be. And if you notice, it's going to be, if you don't know where these spots are, they're on the west side of North Reading, which covers the Bachelor School District and covers the Hood School District. And that's the reason why I wanted to present this. It also shows that we have 3 more subdivisions coming online with a total of between 100 and 150 homes, which are also going to be on the west side of North Reading. The east side, I'm sorry, it's the east side of North Reading, which is towards the Middleton line. And it entails a lot of work. And with the administrator we have and the secretary we have, we've been able to accomplish a lot of things. In the process, we're also responsible which is this here, which will be coming out in publication, which is the master plan for North Reading, which means all land use in the town of North Reading, all the buildings in North Reading. We will be holding public hearings on this in the near future. And anybody who's interested in what's happening in the town meeting, come to our meetings. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Canny? No? Mr. Pasquale?
Mr. Carucci,
I hear you.
I have some data here. It said $60,000 and the split was $38,022 for the secretary. Now I just heard you're going to take $1,000 and somehow you're going to distribute it amongst them. So if you give $500 to both of them, the secretary is going to get an increase of 2.27% and Mr. Rogers will get 1.3%. Now, here's a full-time secretary that sits in the same office that Mr. Rogers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that office is from where Mr. Pasquale standing to that door over there, which is right where Mr. Daly's office is in the town meeting, because I go down there quite a bit.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Now, why isn't the secretary's services, what is so special that this planner has to have a secretary all to himself? What do we got going on down here? We got what? Where is this master plan? I've yet to see this master plan. I go to your meetings, everything runs well, contractors come in and I say, where's this master plan? I think this secretary ought to be sharing her duties. We keep putting part-time people on here. I think we're overloading it with secretaries of this person having his own secretary in the town hall.
Mr. Carucci?
I guess a few questions to answer to Mr. Pasquale. The reason we have a secretary in there, number one, is so the town does not get themselves into trouble as far as meeting deadlines. The Community Planning Commission is under constraints of meeting certain items within a 90-day period, within a 120-day period. If you notice years ago, I'll give you one example, where the town lost a $40,000 suit because they could not meet the time constraints, which was National Amusements out on Route 28. And those are the things that happen. And you need the help in order to keep things rolling. The other thing that I didn't mention, I probably should mention, some people in town hall are in favor of it, some people aren't, is that town administrator, we would like the town, not town administrator, but the CPC administrator, we would like him to take on some more duties as far as handling work for the Board of Appeals, some of the work for the conservation, and where was our other one? Is my help still over there? We have one more item. Anyways, that's one of the reasons for the secretary, okay? We want to increase his duties. We believe that the administrator can benefit the town and the secretary can benefit the town. And that's why we're asking for it. And I think it's in the best interest of the town. The other thing is, if you look at conservation, they have an opportunity to show that they take in X amount of dollars for filing fees, all right? And then they're allowed to extend that on to their expenses. We also take in filing fees. We are pretty close to self-supporting. I mean, an average subdivision has to pay someplace in the vicinity of $5,000 to $6,000 just in a filing fee to have us hear it. And that goes for all the subdivisions. If you looked at all the subdivisions that I had up there, some of them were paying more than that. So we are pretty close to being self-sufficient. We also have the right, well, I'll wait on the other one. I'm a little ahead of myself. But that's why we need the help.
Mrs. Belmonte?
And some people don't agree with us.
The Finance Committee is recommending this because there was money put in under the town administrator for non-union salaries. We do not know that if this would be given to the CPC because the CPC is an independent body. We tried to hold the line on all of these, but it seems to be the will of town meeting to give non-union a salary increase, so we feel that this is fair across the board.
Any further discussion? Mr. Kenny.
Since the CPC has recommended through most of town meeting that we hold the line on the budget and the government was getting too big, and but we don't seem to be too consistent with this particular article, but the selectmen do not recommend.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. We have before us a main motion for $60,000 and a motion to amend by increasing it to $61,000. We will take the motion to amend first. If you vote in favor of the motion to amend, you're moving to amend the amount in the main motion to $61,000. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Carried. Now back to the main motion as amended to $61,000. On the main motion as amended, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carried. Line item number 53. Mr. Carucci?
I move our line item 53 is printed in the warrant. Need a piece of paper. I don't have it. Give me a motion, will you please?
Yeah. How much was it?
Is it up there?
Yeah, what was it? 18,950.
18,950.
Your name on it, you're all set.
On the motion for $18,950 for line item number 53, does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Mrs. Belmonte.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any further discussion? Mr. Carucci.
Okay, before the question is asked, you will notice the figure has gone up from 92, all right? It's gone up to $18,950. It's approximately $10,000. And the reason for that, we have the use of the town engineer for the past few years. The town engineer's time has been taken away from us. In other words, we have subdivisions out there that cannot be looked at for the interest of the town. So what happens is we have to hire a consulting engineer to cover up the work that has to be done out there. For this year, and the subdivisions are already active, and that's the money, that's the reason for the increase of the $10,000. Now, the state has passed a law that says we are allowed to charge consulting engineers, for consulting engineers for subdivisions. If they're already existing, we very well can't do that. And that's the reason for the added money. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Quayle.
I would like to know on whose initiative the town engineer's services are being denied to the CPC.
Mr. Daly.
The curtailment of those services, I wouldn't characterize as a denial. It's based on our having cut back by one engineering position last year, and now we have one person to try to cover all these responsibilities, and it's humanly impossible. So given that there are other opportunities and means by which the CPC can obtain engineering services, we opted for that.
Any further discussion? Mr. O'Leary.
Just as a follow-up to Mr. Carucci's statement, the CPC, as a matter of policy, are in the future going to be charging the subdivision people filing the subdivisions, the additional funds for
That is part of our conditions when
Mr.
we
Carucci.
set these up. We have based it on a formula that we've basically been able to come by the amount of work that the former town, the town engineer does do.
this may be dropping back down.
That's right. Unless the town hires another engineer.
Any further discussion? On the motion, which is for $18,950 for line item number 53, Mrs. Cironi.
The Board of Selectmen recommends 3-2.
You've heard the vote, the recommendation. Okay, the motion before us is